Hi everyone, LiberAnarchy here, and the purpose of this video is to complain. I am doing it in a mask because I am talking about deception. This video was inspired by the now infamous episode of The Magic Sandwich, in which Eric Hovind and what's his name? Tin Brugenkate. That's an interesting name, to say the least. They were guests on The Magic Sandwich, and they were pulling some rather deceptive tactics that many theologians use. And if you are going to not answer questions, be evasive, and try to make your opponents look bad. This thing is weird, awkward to wear. Instead of simply making your point honestly, you are not going to present yourselves well, nor present your case well, and you're not going to convince anyone. Some of the things that they did. I can't get into all of them. Some of the things they did. They used words like law, which have several definitions, and instead of sticking with one definition, they would change the definition in midstream of thought. It's like saying evolution is only a theory. Yes, evolution is a scientific theory, but in colloquial terms, a theory is conjecture. It's an idea. It's a guess. It's mind stuff. It's me sitting around at 3 in the morning with coffee, waxing somewhat philosophic-like about why certain politicians do certain things, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's take the word law. There is a scientific meaning, like the law of gravity, and there is the legal meaning, like the laws that are written on the books. And you know what? There's also other meanings to the word. Or a law could be, for example, a rule. Like if I said something is against the laws of logic, I would mean that you have committed some sort of logical fallacy, or perhaps even that you just said something absurd. Like, an elephant is going to fart jelly every Tuesday if you dance in front of it or something. I might say, well, that defies the laws of logic. That defies the laws of common sense. So, there's people who, how to say this, it's technically true that evolution is a theory, but the term theory scientifically means something than just pure conjecture. Evolution is only a theory in that gravity is only a law. Now, another thing they did is any honest skeptic. Now, there are people with different ideas about reality. Certainly there are, subjectivists and things. But most honest skeptics are going to say, no, I don't know everything that there is, and you know what? I could be absolutely wrong about everything. It's possible. Now, if you're going to discuss philosophy, you're going to have to assume, yes, it's an assumption, that human beings can make sense out of our universe. Not know absolutely everything, but just to make sense out of the world we live in. Otherwise, it's pointless. If you, for whatever reason, are not are not convinced, that your opponent is not convinced that we can make sense out of anything, why even enter into a philosophical discussion? That's stupid. And actually, they weren't convinced of that. They were actually just trying to make their opponents look bad. It was a way of trying to strawman their opponents. I don't know everything. I could be totally wrong. It's possible that I could be a brain in a jar. And so what they're going to do is say, ha ha, this guy thinks that we're brains in jars. Ha ha, this guy thinks that we can't make sense of reality. Oh, this guy clearly admits that he can be as wrong could ever possibly be ever. So we're not going to listen to anything that comes out of his mouth, are we? Because this person is nutty. This person is nuttier than a fruitcake. Or this person doesn't even believe that we can make sense out of reality. So we're not even going to listen to his opinion. Or her opinion. That's called ad hominem. What you are doing is trying to discredit your opponent rather than arguing against your opponent's argument. Instead of refuting the argument, you're saying, this guy's a fool, this guy's a child molester, this guy's a neo-Nazi, a communist, or whatever, so we're not going to listen to him. And I have an itch. Okay. And another thing with that, who the fuck cares if I could be absolutely wrong about everything? They could also be absolutely wrong about everything. They could also be brains in jars. And I think that, and this is one of the things that got Aaron Ross so absolutely furious. And I really empathize, I truly do. I didn't like the fact that he was yelling or trying to yell, because even when he was yelling, I couldn't understand half of what he said. And so, you know, I'm sorry, but I mean, it was irritating, but I really and truly empathize with him. I understand his anger. Because it really and truly does not matter. Absolutely does not matter that I could be wrong about absolutely everything all the time, ever. Because, frankly, the same is true about you, or the theologians, the presuppositionalist theologians. And it irritates me just to think about it, because they really were. They were some of the most dishonest people I've ever heard. Goodness. And if we are completely wrong about our reality, if I really am a brain in a jar, I can't leave the matrix. I can't leave the jar. This is what I have to work with. So this is the only possible reality I could ever possibly even think about discussing. Because, well, hell, even if I went and theorized about other possible realities, it would be somebody else stimulating the brain in a jar to think about other realities. So it doesn't matter. Because we're not going to exit the matrix. The rules of the matrix apply to the matrix and to the people in the matrix. This is what we have to work with. And that's all we have to work with. Another thing that they did is, okay, Thunderfoot was trying to make a point. What he did was repeat what Eric and Cy were saying, except that he replaced the word God with the ghost who never lies, referencing Family Guy, something Peter Griffin did on Family Guy in a trial. And Thunderfoot's point was basically, with this presuppositionalist argument, you could replace God with any absurd thing. And because the word God has this this cultural sacrosanct respect around it, that to a lot of people it's going to sound like, oh, I see. It's going to sound maybe a little bit reasonable. But take out the word God and replace it with any other unprovable entity, like the ghost who never lies. And then you get to the sheer silliness of the presuppositional argument. Now I'm losing my voice. And I'm going to start yelling. I just put on some Motorhead and a really big wig and a fake beard and fucking A. but you know, Thunderfoot could have just as easily said, instead of ghost who never lies, flying spaghetti monster, invisible pink unicorn, Cthulhu, the invisible flesh-eating sandwich of tra-la-la. He could have said anything. But what Eric and Cy were trying to do is then claim either that Thunderfoot had given up his atheism, or that he was being dishonest because he doesn't really believe in the ghost who never lies. Now, either they did not get it, or they did get it, and what they were trying to do is either say, Thunderfoot, you're a liar, or you've given up your atheism. Which is dishonest, because Thunderfoot was putting forth a hypothetical. He was replacing one word in an argument with another that was equally as unproven and unprovable. And another thing they did is refused to discuss the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament. Why? Because they had not yet established that a God exists, and they had not yet convinced the atheists. So they'll discuss the Bible once people believe, but they will not discuss the Bible with people who don't. So basically that's a way of running away and trying to get out of discussing the Bible. Bull. Tannhaus, nice guy. I'm not including him with these dishonest people over here. He will discuss the Bible. In fact, I'm pointing him out as an example of somebody who will discuss the Bible, and he'll discuss the Old Testament. He'll discuss the slavery, the gore, the rape, the murder, he will discuss the mindfuck that God gave Abraham. Hey, sacrifice your kid. Oh, no, don't sacrifice your kid. Yeah, that Isaac had to be like, really? Well, what? Okay, I'm getting off topic, but my point is, Tannhaus, he will discuss the Bible. He will discuss the Old Testament. That is honest. And he will discuss it with people who disagree vehemently with him. Now, I will not just go in and, barrel in there and be a rude person. You know why? Because I have a measure of respect for him. You know why? He behaves in a respectable way. So we could disagree on one thing. I mean, we could be literally diametrically opposed. I still respect him as a person. Because he will discuss his beliefs. He won't run away and say, oh, I'm not going to discuss the Bible with you because you're not a believer. I mean, I that irritates me because with Eric and Cy, I mean, that's just cowardice. If you want to promote the Bible, freaking discuss it. You know what that says to me? It says that they can't defend their case, that the Bible is indefensible. Okay, now let's get to this presuppositional argument. Now this is the headache. This is a real brain-exploding headache. Okay. The presuppositionalist argument is, and I'm not even sure I understand it, so if I've got it wrong, let me know. proof of God would require reason. Now, if somebody uses reason, they believe that reason is a way to get answers. How do they know that? Well, it's because they're using their reason. So atheists are using reason in order to conclude that reason works, and thus using their reason, and that is circular. Well, yes, technically it is circular, but this goes back to, if you're going to discuss philosophy in any way, shape, or form, you're going to have to assume that human beings can find some way to make sense of our reality in some way, shape, or form. Why reason? Well, let me pull out some reason to reason. If you test your beliefs and they stand up to evidence, or they don't, and you accept what stands up to evidence, you accept what stands up to scrutiny. Remember, because you do have to test. You can't just reason something out and think that it's okay. I mean, Aristotle thought fish came out of mud, and I'm not going to dog him for that. I mean, for his time, it was reasonable. I mean, if fish eggs were in the mud and he didn't see the fish eggs, he might think, oh, well, I observed that they come out of the mud. Reason can be wrong, but test that reason and test it again and see if you can get repeated results. And basically, it has a better track record than religions as far as getting results, whatever results you want. Medicine, for example, transportation, means of communication like the internet. Yeah, I mean, good grief. Show me a religion that tells you how to make an internet. Now, I'm not saying that, like, all religion is bad and there's no therapeutic qualities to any religion ever or anything like that. I'm just saying that, yes, reason gets us somewhere. Now, presuppositionalism, at least their version of it, is that you assume a God. Assume that God is the source of reason, because human beings can be wrong. Very, very wrong. We could be brains in jars, we don't know. Now, God, being the source of reason, will give humanity the correct reason, and then from that reason, we can then go back to there must be a God. And I don't know how this is going to even stand up to any amount of scrutiny, because if they are human beings, they could be just as wrong as we could be. They say that they will not be because they get their information from God, because they presuppose it, and that the nature of God is such that he would not give erroneous information, but they are the first in the step anyway, because they are presupposing God. So they don't have a leg to stand on. They could be just as wrong as any of us, because they're the ones that are presupposing before any other process happens. And the only way they distinguish between the rationalist circular argument and the theist, I guess I should say the skeptical, and the Judeo-Christian monotheist presuppositional argument, because somebody else could say do this with like polytheism or something else. Oh yeah, it's so mind-numbing. It's hard to even discuss coherently because it's not even coherent. But the difference, according to them, between the skeptical circle and the Judeo-Christian monotheistic presuppositional circle is that ours is a vicious circle. Theirs is a circle. Theirs is a circle. Ours is a vicious circle. What the fuck? I mean, come on. Come on. And off the top of my head, I can't really recall any of the other dishonest tricks that they pulled, but yeah, they did pull a lot of dishonest games with rhetoric and wordplay, and they very often, instead of simply answered questions, they would often answer questions with questions. Oh, excuse me, I'm scratching my nose. My nose is starting to itch. God dang. And no, I'm not picking it. Another thing they did as far as wordplay, they would take the word absolute and use it interchangeably with the word objective. And another thing they did, instead of saying, one of the things they did is say, well, could you be wrong? Well, yeah, do you know everything? Well, no, and by the way, it doesn't matter. But they said, could you be absolutely wrong about everything? How is that even possible, to be absolutely wrong about everything? Even if you're a brain in a jar, and your perceptions are, by definition, unreal, incorrect, you are, in some degree, right in describing them, because that's what you're being made to see. You are describing the illusion. You could be correctly describing the illusion, even though it is in fact an illusion. So you're not absolutely wrong about everything. Could you be absolutely wrong about everything? First of all, who the fuck cares? Because so could they, even though they say that they have this God. They just kind of presuppose that there's a God giving them correct reason, correct information that apparently sounds like a duck. Forget that they themselves are the start of it anyway, because they presuppose. Could you be absolutely wrong about everything? You know what? The more I think about it, the more I think it's probably not even possible to be absolutely wrong about everything. I mean, it's possible to be really wrong about nearly everything. But I don't know how somebody could be absolutely wrong about everything. Yeah, my cat wants attention. My cat is meowing. Well, shut up. Oh my god. Yeah, it's probably like, you're ranting, you're keeping me up at night. You get on YouTube in this stupid little mask and then you rant about these idiot theologians. I mean, these aren't even people who are like, saying, look at how beautiful the universe is. There must be some kind of God or divinity, or arguing from personal experience. I can understand that. More religiously inclined people would envy my brain. I'm a pantheist. I call the universe God. But, well, and you could say, well, you're just doing that to make yourself feel better. And you know what? Maybe I am. That's actually very likely. Goodness gracious. I have no words to articulate how utterly dishonest these two were. Instead of answering questions, they would answer questions with questions. So it was sad. It was sad. Okay, so that's my little rants. But the point is, I really, really, how to say this? What to take away from this? If you're resorting to this level of dishonesty to prove your opinions, your opinions are invalid. And you are not going to convince anybody worth convincing. At least not for very long. You are not doing a service to your cause. You are actually doing quite a disservice to your cause. Now, there are other rants out there about this show. Better than my rants. Oh, wow, I just remembered another thing they pulled. If any of the atheists brought up logic and say something like a logical fallacy or the rules of logic, something cannot be A and not A at the same time, or something like that, instead of talking about specific rules of logic, they would go back to this whole bit. Well, if you don't know absolutely everything, if you're not right about absolutely everything, and you're not getting your logic from God, being the source of logic, then I cannot trust your logic. Or if you don't believe that logic is absolute, then you must be saying that there are times when A can equal not A, and therefore you are by definition completely illogical, and anything you say is by definition equaling also the contradiction of what you say. So if I say the sun is hot, I am also saying the sun is cold, because if I am not getting absolute / objective truth from their God, remember they presuppose their God, then my ideas could be wrong and are therefore not objective / absolute, and therefore any logic that I put forth is null and void. Therefore, if I say something like a thing cannot be A and not A at the same time, then I am also saying the opposite. I am also saying that A does equal not A, or A can equal not A. Therefore, whenever I say the sun is hot, I am also saying the opposite, the sun is cold, because I am saying that A can and does equal not A, because my logic is not objective / absolute. This is the headache-inducing crap that is the last episode of The Magic Sandwich. I sincerely hope, that no serious atheist or theologian, for that matter, or anybody ever interviews these two ever again, ever in the whole of human history, unless it is specifically and only for the lulz. Because that's all you're going to get. Because if you try to take these people seriously, you will get a massive headache. I've gone back to ranting, and I apologize. Of course, it's YouTube. Why should I apologize for a rant? I mean, if you don't want rants, I mean, coming on YouTube and not wanting rants, that's like going on B and not wanting nonsense. I mean, really. So, the takeaway from this video is, if you're not being honest in your arguments, if you're pulling rhetorical tricks and you're running away, and instead of answering questions, you answer questions with questions, being evasive and all that, if you're trying to defeat your opponent by just manipulating logic instead of actually using logic as a constructive tool, like, well, we can deduce da 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 da. It's like, if this premise, both these premises are true, well then, blah. Well, not using logic like that, but using logic as, well, misusing logic, using illogic to put words in the mouth of your opponents. I mean, if you're pulling that stuff, then your opinion is invalid and should be seen as invalid, because if you did have a valid opinion, you could and you would actually defend your opinion, defend your position, because remember, the burden of proof is on the one who makes the claim, in this case, the theist, because atheists aren't making any claim. Well, some atheists are. However, most atheists, i.e., people who lack a belief in any gods, some people include all the supernatural, but unless you're defining a ghost and a god, or a crop circle and a god, or aliens and gods, or whatever, as the same thing, then technically, you can be an atheist and still believe in the supernatural or in the paranormal. That's why a lot of atheists are also skeptics, and a lot of skeptics are also atheists. But you can also be a skeptic and a theist. Some atheists do complain about how other skeptics are theists, but that's a different topic. So, please, if you're going to make a claim, and you're going to represent your claim, please do it honestly, and don't give me such a splitting headache. I almost turned the show off because literally my head was killing me. I mean, I was trying to follow their mutilation of logic and reason. I was trying to follow their word games and their head games, but it was all dishonest. All of it. Rhetorical tricks. That's it. Okay, so thanks for listening if you got this far. And as always, this is LiberAnarchy in a silly mask saying, know thyself!